What's crack-a-lackin', Toxic Crew? My name is Toxiquid, and welcome to a post-Byleth society! With the finishing of the first Fighters Pass with Byleth and 6 new fighters to come, I thought I could expand on the fighters that I want for Smash Ultimate with an additional 4 characters in what I'm going to call the Toxiquid Fighters Pass, with the first player being Bandana D, as you can see in this video here, but I've talked enough about that. Today we are going to be delving into the Funky Monkey, the Baboon with a B, the Simian with a SoundCloud, and the grooviest grass-type Galar starter, Rillaboom. In this video, we are going to dive deep into a fully formed concept for a fighter, complete with stuff like a moveset, music selection, a new stage, and spirit battles. This will be a fully developed DLC fighter, so without further ado, let's get right into it. Starting with the standard attacks, these are going to encompass a lot of stuff that you hit with the big ol' A button. This means stuff like jabs, tilts, and the illustrious smash attacks. But before we get into that, there is one thing that I have to mention. With the Bandana D video, I took inspiration and reference from a variety of Kirby enemies, but with Rillaboom, he already has all the tools he needs, as he has a big moveset alongside a giant drum and his accompanying drumsticks. But starting out with the standard jab combo, I'm going to be referring to this one as the Drumstick Ditty, where it starts with Rillaboom getting his drumsticks out and playing a simple 1-2 beat in the same way he'd beat his drum. The dash attack would be Slam, where he would catapult himself forward using his arms as support to fling himself forward in a kick. His forward tilt would be the Mega Punch, where he'd wind his fist back and punch in a relatively quick succession, and this goes well with his down tilt Mega Kick, where he crouches and sweeps the leg. Lastly, his up tilt would be his pre-evolution's signature branch poke, where he'd take out his drumsticks and jab upwards. But with all the standard attacks out of the way, let's move on to the smash attacks. For his forward smash, this is an obvious one, but what could it be other than Wood Hammer? Rillaboom charges up the Wood Hammer, or more so a fist with a Wood Hammer-like projection around it, and it'd slam down, causing small shockwave damage around it, but at the cost of a little bit of percentage racking up. And one might ask, hey, why would I use a move that hurts me? Well, if you watch to the end of the video, you'll actually find out how you can get it back. Up smash would be Boom Burst, where he would bring out his drums and sticks, smashes the drum, and uses the sound waves to hit above him. And lastly, the down smash would be Brutal Swing, where he would violently swing the drum from side to side. And that's really all there is to say on the standard attacks, so let's move from the ground to the sky with Rillaboom's aerial moves. Being a grass type, Rillaboom wouldn't be expected to do well in the air, but actually he's not too shabby. Starting out with his neutral aerial, he would drum up some leaf storms by shedding some leaves from that glorious mane he has. His forward air would be round, where he'd screech with the same little sound wave effects as Boom Burst, and another move we'll get to later down the line. Back air would be fake out, where he'd clap behind the back, dealing lots of damage. And his up air would be Drumstick Click. It's, that one motion that they do before they start playing in bands. I don't really know how to describe it. If you guys know what it is, that would be awesome to know. Leave a comment down below. It's a nice way to know. Please leave a comment. I don't know what it is. And lastly, his down air would be the Drum Drop, where he'd thrust down the drum he'd been carrying downwards. And that's really it for the aerials. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the grabs and throws. Rillaboom starts out his grab by grabbing his opponents with his big meaty hands and will pound them rhythmically. His forward throw would be Fling, where he'd roll forwards and then subsequently flings the opponent forwards. The back throw would be Acrobatics, where they would be tossed in midair and then kicked. The down throw would be Stomping Tantrum, where they would be slammed onto the ground and stomped, dealing damage, sending them forwards. And then lastly, the up throw would be Bullet Seed, where the opponent would be tossed up and hit with a barrage of seeds. I wanted this section to be very concise and quick, and also there really wasn't much to say on the matter. So for right now, it's time to move on to the best part of Rillaboom's moveset, the special attacks. But before we actually get to talk about Rillaboom's special moves, let's actually talk about his mechanic or gimmick. Joker has Arsene, Banjo has Wonder Wing, Hero has Command Selection, and Rillaboom has Overgrow. Overgrow can be interpreted as Terry's Go Sauce, but is actually a bit different. Sure, both of them activate past 100%, but Terry gets access to 2 new moves with dumb command inputs. Rillaboom, on the other hand, gets a buffed version of all his specials with no special input.
Isn't that just Cloud's limit?
Yeah. But yeah, with that in mind, let's get into the special attacks. For his neutral special, he wields a drum. Drum beating is an AoE move that hits around Rillaboom, and if you hit the button, the range gets smaller relatively quickly, but if you hit the button rhythmically to the time that he is playing, the range not only maintains its size, it actually gets bigger. And for his overgrown neutral special is actually dubbed Jammin' Out. Jammin' Out has a consistently large size, faster hits, and a more chaotic tune. His side special is Earth Power, where he leaps forwards and slams the fist on the ground, shaking it and making a crater. And he will commit to this attack, as once it's executed, the only time it will stop is when he touches the ground or an enemy in midair. But those are small potatoes compared to the overgrown buffed side special, Earthquake. The horizontal range is expanded, and he will slam the ground like a meteor, and if he hits someone in midair with this attack, it will spike. But unfortunately, all the same drawbacks are applied here too, with him not being able to react until he hits the ground or an enemy. The up special is Solar Beam. Rillaboom charges up energy in his flowing green mane and uses all that energy he stores up into a beam of light that's fired downwards, propelling him up, Diddy Kong style. The overgrown version of this is Hyper Beam, where it not only takes less time to charge, it actually propels him higher. And lastly, there's the down special. You might remember a few minutes ago that I would explain why Side Smash does damage to yourself, and this is how I'm going to justify it. The down special is Leech Seed, where Rillaboom shoots out little seeds that attach to opponents like Pikmin, dealing damage to them and giving damage back to you, like a ranged Nosferatu. It has Pikmin-like properties, like if it is given enough damage it'll fall right off. The overgrown version of this is Frenzy Plant, where in addition to more seeds being thrown out, it also reduces their movement speed a tad. And bam, that's a way you can recover HP after such a big attack like the side smash. Lastly, for his moveset, Rillaboom's final smash is G-Max Drum Solo. This is started by him tensing up and slamming the ground. Then the opponent is transferred to Winden Stadium, where behind them is G-Max Rillaboom, where he unleashes his signature G-Max move. Alright, so since the moveset is done and I know that half the people that are watching are gone, all that's left to do is taunt, alternate costumes, music, stage, and spirits. This may sound like a lot, but we're going to get through it relatively quickly. And because I don't have a formal transition for this as it is so menial, here are all the taunts. The up taunt is him plopping down his drums and then jamming out in a funny fashion. Side taunt is him taking out his drumsticks, flipping them in the air, and then putting them back. The down taunt is him just stretching, and that's really it. The alternate costumes go as such. There's the default, a shiny color variant, an autumn color palette, a winter color palette, and a spring color palette, a Zacian color palette and a Zamazenta color palette, and a funky looking color palette that references all the rivals. Now look at those clashing colors, aren't they just gorgeous? The music selection takes notes from Sword and Shield with tracks like Battle Champion, Battle Wild Pokemon, Battle Hop, Battle Marnie, Battle Bead, Battle Battle Tower, Battle Gym Leader, Battle Peers, and a Battle Champion Leon remix, alongside a Max Raid Battle remix, and an Eternatus medley comprising of all three phases of that big boss battle. The stage I made is called the Wild Area. It's a roaming stage that takes you to parts of the titular Wild Area, going from the rolling fields that has very few platforms and shiz, then going to the Watchtower Ruins with a larger tower that acts as platforms, making it a more uneven stage, then to the bridge field that has columns that act as destructible barriers, then to the Lake of Outrage where it's all very jank in terms of placement, then lastly to the Dusty Bowl that has elements of the stony wilderness and the Giant's Cap sprinkled in, and then after all of that, you go all the way back to the rolling fields. Yeah, so you see how quickly we went through all of that? Now all that's left is the spirits. Whoo boy! Starting with the Novice Spirits, Squavit is a primary attack spirit that is a tiny, easily distracted Wario on Gaur Plains. Lots of food spawns, and the spirit comes with a fairy in a bottle on startup. Yamper is a support spirit where you fight against Isabelle on Golden Plains where the floor is electric. The spirit has electric resistance. Eldegoss is here as a primary defense spirit where you fight the ice climbers on Smashville whose jump height has been increased and you are easier to launch yet fall slowly. The spirit gets you less landing lag. Lastly, there is Toxel as an enhanceable primary attack spirit. This little guy is represented by Pichu with faster running speed that tends to avoid conflict, all on Pokemon Stadium 2. You get rewarded with faster running speed. The advanced spirits are more advanced. Cramorant is here as a primary attack spirit represented by King DDD that is all curried up that tends to avoid conflict, alongside a tiny Sonic with a Beast Ball on Woohoo Island. This is a timed stamina battle where all you have to do is defeat DDD to win. Next up is Phalanx, where it is a support spirit where you gotta fight 6 10 HP Kirby's on Gerudo Valley. This is also a timed battle where you are rewarded with a back shield on startup. And lastly, there's Morpeko as a primary grab spirit where you gotta fight Pikachu and a Pikachu Libre on Pokemon Stadium who loves the taunt. You start at 300% and then get a buff in your electric attacks upon beating it. Up next are the Ace Spirits, like Copperajah as a primary attack spirit where you fight against a giant metal Bowser Jr. that prefers not to move on the wild area. This is also a timed battle that rewards you with Insta-Drop. Next is Alcremie, who is a support spirit where all you have to do is fight an auto-healing Jigglypuff with Swirlix appearing in Pokeballs more often on Magikarp. There's also Fog, and once you beat it, you get auto-heal. Lastly, we got Dragapult, that's a clear Olimar with 2 tiny Ridleys on Dracula's castle. This one is also covered in fog, and Zoroark will appear more often in Pokeballs, and you will be rewarded with a Beast Ball at the beginning. And for the final spirit, who else could it be than Eternatus, who is also enhanceable, and is a primary grab spirit. This fight is against a giant Ridley, then a giant K-Rool on Find Me. They will be temporarily invincible at some times, with sun damage being dealt here and there, and Deoxys will appear much more often. You do have allies in this fight, however, with Red and Blue Link, and are awarded with Hyper Smash attacks. And that's it. There's nothing else to say about it. Nothing else to say on it. Nope. Nothing. Thank you so much for watching. What do you guys think of this Smash Fighter concept? What would you change? Do you think this could be a viable character to get in Smash, or do you think that another Pokemon would get in? I'm gonna leave that up to you guys. But if you want to know, 1, what the next 3 characters I'm going to make are and when, and potentially who I'm going to collaborate with to make them, 2, stuff like behind the scenes production stuff for all these types of videos, 3, how you get to see all my videos early, and 4, how you get to see all these snazzy portraits I get at the end of my videos, go to Patreon. Patreon.com/Toxiquid. Go pledge there. You will get weekly updates, snazzy access to stuff on my Discord, and even more. But with that, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video later on this month. And keep on crack-a-lackin'.